This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has been evacuated from Guinea Bissau after a military coup that deposed the civilian president. He was in the country as part of external observers monitoring the country's elections. Guinea Bissau is now the ninth African nation to fall to military rule since 2020. Joining the conversation is Collins Nweke, an international affairs analyst. Mr. Nweke, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Let's start by getting your reactions to the news about the coup in Guinea Bissau.
Well, Stephen, the coup in Guinea-Bissau, has a long history. The country itself has a long history of political instability. So, it's not the first time that we're hearing of such mayhem out of that tiny African country. And this is essentially as a consequence of weak civilian institutions and power struggles between political elites and the armed forces. Now, the country, despite its small size, is strategically significant in West Africa and has often been used as transit hub for drug trafficking, which has further weakened governance structures. Now, the latest coup tensions reflect deeper divisions between the presidency on the one hand, the military leadership, and then political actors over electoral timelines, constitutional authority, and control of state resources. So at the heart of the crisis is a familiar African dilemma, and that is civilian governments that lack strong legitimacy and the militaries that see themselves, as political arbiters rather than professional defenders of the state. So it's some sort of, recurring decimal. Like you mentioned, 9 so far since, less than a decade.
Mr. Nweke, the interesting about the 9, because 9 times is also the number of successful and attempted coups in Guinea-Bissau since it's received independence back in 1974. But
absolutely,
it's interesting that the last successful coup in the country was in 2011. So one would think that in these 14 years that the civilian governments would have been able to receive some sort of, or establish some sort of stability. I know there were 2 attempted coups between that 2011 and this successful one just 2 days ago. I'm curious as to your thoughts on ECOWAS's role in ensuring or sort of trying to help that stability from a civilian perspective.
Very important point you made, Nabila. The point is that, Guinea-Bissau's, current crisis is a reminder that democracy is not self-sustaining. It requires strong institutions, professional militaries, and accountable leadership. And until the ECOWAS fixes the roots of instability, coups will remain a recurring temptation rather than a fading threat, in Africa. Now, coups are symptoms of broken civilian-military relations, not real solution. I mean, that's one point we've got to, allow to sink in. When institutions are weak, the guns becomes louder than the constitution, which they merely just toss away and force themselves on the people. So each coup in West Africa lowers the psychological barrier for the next one, and I hope this is something that ECOWAS will actually think very deeply about, and begin to think of ways and means of actually creating more stability, creating more opportunities for young people, and disarming the military. I mean, in terms not physical disarming, but in terms of not giving them reasons to actually seize power. Because so far, they have not been the messiah that they claim to be when they seize fire. They are as bad as the civilians themselves.
All right. Earlier you mentioned the drug trafficking in Guinea-Bissau. This is a country that has been described as a narco state. And so beyond ECOWAS, we know that countries within the European Union also have some sort of vested interest because, as we understand it, the flow of the drugs are from Guinea-Bissau on towards European countries such as Portugal and Spain and whatnot. What do you think we should expect to see from these countries and the EU in terms of a response to what has happened in the country?
Well, I don't know that. I do hope, not know really, because you can never be certain, Nabila, about these things. But right now, of course, I don't know what they're going to do differently from what they have done before. But I think one single realization is the fact that coups are becoming very, very normal. In terms of psychological, at some point, it looks like, coups are no longer, part of, the structure of Africa, West Africa particularly, but they have continued to reoccur in a manner that makes people feel, oh, well, another one, well, that's normal. So, the partners, international partners of Africa, the EU as part of it, now should realize that the danger is more than they had imagined. Now, are we expecting that they are coming in a way that will recolonize Africa? That is not a solution, because when they do, they actually provide more reasons for those that are actually the serious of coup to indeed sharpen their rhetoric even more, to say, okay, the neo-imperialists are back again. So the best they can do as the EU and other friends, international friends of Africa, is essentially to support the institutions of the ECOWAS, for instance, and then the domestic institutions, the democratic institutions, because if they are stronger, more opportunities created for young people, less the temptation for coup to take place. So institutional support flown through ECOWAS as a body is what the EU should be considering doing.
Mr. Nweke, thank you very much for your time on this conversation. Collins Nweke is an international affairs commentator who joined us this morning to speak on the coup that has been recorded in Guinea-Bissau. The coup came on the heels of the elections which were being observed by former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, as well as several external observers. It is worth reiterating that former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has been safely evacuated alongside his team back to Abuja. You're still listening to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. We urge you to stay tuned. Our conversations continue shortly.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.